Happy Sunday night, everyone. Welcome to our new rebranded Sportsline Model show is now inside the lines. Here's a pretty graphic for you. New logo, new schedule, a lot to unpack here. And the first thing we want to do on Sunday nights for you guys is go over these look-ahead lines, get some early action, get these plays while there is still value to be had. Me and Steven have been watching these games all day, and we've looked, predicting where these look-ahead lines are going to reopen. A lot of those have been pretty on par, so take it for what it's worth. We do have Derek and Jake in the chat to answer questions as well. So we'll get started here. We're just going to run through the slate for Week 5. We'll start with Chicago at Washington. The model has value on the over. Fields just put up a bunch of points, so this likely will continue to go up. The spread probably won't change. Steven, what do you think?
Yeah, the look-ahead line. So the line set before today's games was 42.5 on the over-under, and it reopened on DraftKings at 44.5, and pretty much everyone's in line with that. Washington, the number did move off of -4.5 to -5, and even -5.5 sometimes. So I think if you like Washington, which I think you should, you might want to get -5 while you can, because this might settle in at -6 by Thursday.
Right. So yes, that's one you want to act on if you do like Washington. We'll move over to the London game with Jackson. Buffalo's technically the home team, but you really look at Jacksonville, it feels like, week 2 in London, they're going to be comfortable. A lot of this will have to do with that London weather, so we'll definitely readdress this game later in the week. But what do you see right now, Steven?
Yeah, so the Bills, again, they're not built to play in Buffalo, but so we'll see how the number is. I think that I think a lot of people watched the first half of that Jags game, saw an improved offensive showing. Trevor Lawrence is using his legs like we had hoped he would from the beginning of the preseason. So, and then Buffalo looks pretty unstoppable offensively right now. So the line ticked up slightly from 47.5 to reopen at 48. And I saw one book at Buffalo moved off all the way to -5.5. So it could be an interesting opportunity to play. If you want to eke out a nice 5% profit, if you have like you got a 5 over here, a number of 5.5 over here, or 4.5. Games don't commonly end around that total, the 5-point difference. So there could be, again, if you're one of these big money management type people, arbitraging people, it could be a game to watch.
Right. And we'll move to Houston at Atlanta. CJ Stroud continues to make a name and a case for himself. Atlanta, it opened up -3.5, and we loved Houston plus that 3.5 at that key number. Some books have moved this to -2, but not everyone has reopened yet.
Yeah, I'm going to pat ourselves on the back because we had a big deal in Houston being our number one value to win over 6.5, and it looked pretty bad over the first few weeks, but now I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, the number one, you're not going to be able to get the plus 3.5 anymore, but you still can get +3, and I don't see that going 2.5 in a lot of spaces. So if you like Houston to cover, you probably want to grab 3 while you can before it goes to 2.5. You lose a critical half a point.
Right.
Although I should say, I think I originally saw DraftKings reopen at -2, and then someone bumped it back to -2.5. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this could settle in at 3, but I can't imagine going anywhere back close to 3.5.
Right. We'll move to Carolina at Detroit. This 7.5 number is certainly a number you would want to act on right now if you like Detroit in the spot. If you can still get that 7.5 over under 43.5. Carolina, just not a great showing. And then you look at Detroit, who has a lot of rest, so that could be in their favor too.
Yeah, I mean, this is last week we pinpointed Philadelphia, who opened as a -7.5 as a line that's going to move to 9.5, and it did. Now Philly obviously didn't cover, but thankfully for McKenzie, they won in a nail biter. I saw a different side of you this afternoon. So, yeah, I think this is so. I think it was Bet Rivers had reopened Detroit at -8.5, and then the next 2 sports books followed that. So I think this is as big a number as 8.5 is, and as disappointing as it is that it's not 7.5. If you like Detroit, you probably want to move before it goes to 9.5, like Philly did against Washington this week.
Right. Now this game's a little trickier. You look at the Titans at the Colts, and Tennessee obviously just beat up Cincinnati and Joe Burrow, but it's like, what does that really mean now to have beaten the Bengals? Like, does it hold the same effect that it used to? Not really. So this is kind of a hard place to play.
Yeah, and it's always impressive when a young quarterback, whether it's Jordan Love in Green Bay, or in this case Anthony Richardson this week, shows moxie and comes back from a big deficit and almost leads them to victory. At the same time, it's like, why didn't you start like that? You're basically saying when you're calling the plays that the coach called you, that you prepared all week, you poop the bed, and and then you use your athleticism to get back into it when the other team is sort of takes the gas off. But yeah, the lines I think are equally confused. The difference here is like this is going to be close to a pick 'em. I'm seeing prices of -1 in some spots for Indianapolis, and then +1.5 on others. So again, really interesting opportunity for those of you who can manage money better.
And the model likes the under. Do you think this is a line that's going to keep moving under?
Yeah, because Tennessee's got a really great run defense, and even though Anthony Richardson can probably move the ball with anyone, he's always an injury risk. And I think that, and Zach Moss had a couple good games in a row, but I think Tennessee, and I don't think we'll see what happens with Jonathan Taylor. They want him to come back, maybe, but he says he still doesn't want to play for them. So I'm not sure if Indianapolis is going to run the ball well against Tennessee.
Right. Before we move on to our other games, I want to share our schedule really quick, our new schedule. We will now be 15 to 20 minutes throughout the week every day, but Saturday, Sunday nights will be me and Steven doing these look-ahead lines, looking at value, and same with Monday when we can complete those games, and we'll talk a little more college football. Tuesday, we'll start to talk some injuries, how that will impact lines, some overreactions in that college football world. Thursdays, we'll hit some more total spreads, updates from earlier in the week. And Friday, as always, we will be hitting all of our props. So prop party's still there for those who are worried, but just want to share that schedule as we move into that now.
Can I beg people, though, to, especially that Tuesday college football one. Last year, there was a game with Cam Rising for Utah, famously just was not on any injury reports, and he just didn't play. No one knew until the game. This week, we had value on Kansas versus and their quarterback Jalen Daniels was practice all week, and then he had back tightness. Now, if I have back tightness, then I can say, hey guys, I'm going to stay at home. But if you're the quarterback for Kansas playing against Texas and you practice all week, that's got to be one tight back. I'd say I had slipped 3 discs and got stepped on by a moose or something, and then to not show up for that game. So yeah, college football, we know, I think within a couple of years with the changes going on with the betting and everything else, and even just governing what's the scandals that happened, that they probably will have some rules as far as injury reporting, even if it's just by conference having their own strict rules. But right now it's still the wild, wild west. So would love if anybody who is really into it, who's part of a college campus, sees someone limping. I had an idea last year to have I want to have an NIL package for any college football player who would self-report injuries. That's the one we need help on. Anyway, sorry.
No, fair. College football will be a very big part of the show, but we'll stick in the NFL for right now. We'll go to the Giants at the Dolphins, a line that we certainly think could go up, especially if Saquon Barkley plays. Not a lot of strength on defense on either side of this ball. So if you correct me if I'm wrong, if you like an over here, it's probably now or never.
Yeah, I mean, it's 49.5, which is a high number, but we saw today with Miami, they can't really stop anyone, and they'll be able to put up tons of points. That Giants defense doesn't scare anyone, and
we'll see how they play against Seattle, obviously, but I can't imagine it's anything real.
I think if Seattle scores 25 or above, then the line will go from 49.5 to 50.5.
Right. So yeah, something to keep an eye out for before Monday Night Football. We'll move to your Ravens, -2 at Pitt. Pitt obviously didn't have a great showing today, which makes the Ravens look really good in this spot as well.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because Ravens-Steelers games usually never go more than a 4-point favorite. And there's only been, out of the last 26 matchups, I have 5 games where there's more than a 4-point spread. I guarantee that was major injuries involved in those. So now, Kenny Pickett might be out, and it's debatable whether he's a big value above Mitch Trubisky. I think he is. Last year, Pickett had a game-winning drive against us, while Trubisky threw 2 bad interceptions to cost him the game. But his impact could impact the line. But yeah, Baltimore was -2 on the road, favorite as a look ahead, and that moved to -3 on DraftKings, and FanDuel had -3.5. So I think this could settle in at Ravens -4, which is where the model has it in the latest sim, with a 50-50 split between Pickett and Trubisky. Yeah, it's I don't think it's really rare to see more than 4, but I kind of think that this could be one where that happens.
Right. We'll move to Cincinnati going to Arizona. The line opened Cincinnati -8, already moved to 7, probably is getting even lower now, over under
Yeah.
42.5 with it's kind of the story of like at what point does the public start giving up on Joe Burrow because it's been a couple
Well,
weeks and it's
I
like
know
is this
who has bad news for Bengals fans. It looks like Jamar Chase has given up on Joe Burrow based on his post-game comments. He's, unless if I say I'm always effing open, is that a term of love or is that you really? Because that's what he said about
yeah.
Anyway,
AJ Brown and
I'm
Jalen
so biased. I know I'm so horribly biased. I'm not biased in reporting any numbers or how I run my models, just my
Right.
personal opinions. But yeah, Cincinnati look ahead was -8. So that was the line that I updated well before as recently as last Thursday. And then it was bumped down to -7, even halfway through the Bengals game when they're down, to Tennessee. Then Arizona came back. While they didn't cover against San Francisco, I don't think they had some fight. They cut it to 21-16 at a certain point. So it's like, okay, this Arizona team's for real. They try hard, and they're not. And then Cincinnati is in big trouble. So the line I see -5. I wouldn't be surprised if I checked right now if I saw worse than that. Yeah, Cincinnati -5. You can still get 6. So Arizona backers should take +6 while they can.
Right. And
Because
over
that's definitely. And T. Higgins could be out next week too. So
yeah, I think this is an act now for Cardinals backers as well. We'll move over to Philly, -6 at the Rams. We were talking about it earlier. I think it opened with a bigger spread, but the way Philly's playing, if you are a Philly backer, you might as well wait till later in the week because the spread will probably just shrink.
Yeah, I mean, everyone saw Puka Nacua had another amazing game and then he game-winning touchdown. I think Cooper Kupp is back next week. So, and Philadelphia's drop off from last year's team, while they had 5 sacks against Sam Howell today, a lot of those were kind of late and extenuating circumstances where Howell's trying to extend the play. And so if Philly's pass defense isn't nearly what it was, at least this time last year,
right,
then people are going to think, oh, the Rams with Nacua and Cooper. So I think the lines moved down to -5.5 and -5 in some spots. I think it'll get to -4 and then maybe swing back to -5 by kickoff.
Right.
So if
Especially when you get that official Cooper Kupp news, right? I mean, when do you think that would happen? Like Wednesday?
I think it's basically official because he was on IR. And I don't know. I mean, I assume Philly fans will travel. Everyone travels to LA.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, the Raiders Chargers game. I think the Rams are more popular than the Chargers, but it was like 75% Raider fans, and that's partly because of history.
Well, yeah. And while you mentioned fans of travel, we were talking about this earlier. The Packers laying a point in Vegas, and usually, fan bases love to go to Vegas. Like it's a great away game to go to. We're not really sure if the Wisconsin type vibe is trying to go to Vegas, but I will say Packers fans travel, so it's like I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might go for the buffets.
There you go.
I think there's some pretty good ones out there, but not necessarily for the other.
No hate, nicest people I've ever met are
definitely
are over there. I don't know
but,
if Vegas is their scene.
Green Bay, this is an interesting one too because I thought I was all over the public fading Green Bay based on the first half versus Detroit. But, Jordan Love, and then I'm thinking, okay, a lot of people tuned down at half and didn't see the solid performance in the third quarter before it went back, the other way. Right. And I think people walked away from that game thinking, oh, it's really Detroit's legitimate contender status as opposed to Green Bay's trash. And Vegas, so Vegas will assume that Jimmy G will come back. I don't know. Aiden O'Connell, who I thought they should have started over Brian Hoyer, and he did. He had his moments before he threw this kind of bad interception that cost him the game. I think the books are kind of all over the map on this one. Again, interesting possibilities. I'm seeing -1 most spots, but then I see +1.5 in others. So this could be one. There's a lot of discrepancy and critical ones when you're talking plus. You can get. But beware the juice. You're probably trying to fool you. You might see some +1.5 for Green Bay, but then a -120, -125, a steep price for that.
Right. Where does the model have this game?
That was interesting to me because we still like Green Bay, because even though Green Bay couldn't run at all against Detroit, we know I'm pretty safe in knowing that Aaron Jones can run the ball and against the Raiders. So we still like Green Bay up to -2.
Right.
And then that doesn't factor in the stats from today's Raider game.
Right.
So I was surprised by that though. I thought the Packers would be changing the sim to a pick 'em.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing I should emphasize about why we emphasize the model play, even when we don't have tremendous betting value, is because our model uses a lot of stats, crunches them really fast and all that. But in the end, it pretty much replicates what sportsbook models, the models that sportsbooks use to set their lines.
Right.
And then a lot of these sportsbooks all use the same source. And those are the same people that we've been working with for, alongside head to head for decades. So we've kind of matched that market. And then there's an ever growing number of people who run their own models and stats-based analysis for gambling. And those people end up kind of mirroring, by and large, our model's moves. Just takes them a few more days to do it. So that's the importance of looking at the model line, is when it's not a huge value as a betting value.
Right. And that's why we're doing this so early, because no one else is ready the way we are right now. We'll move over to Dallas, who just beat down the Patriots, going to San Francisco. Niners favored 3.5, over under 45.5.
Yeah, it moved off -3. So Dallas just clobbered Patriots. But there was still some lack of execution in the red zone. And Micah Parsons, he came back into the game, but he may not be 100%. So I think that's the one you got to watch out. I think if you like San Francisco, I'd feel safe for them at more than up to 4.
Right.
Because they look kind of like a juggernaut right now. And McCaffrey, what I'm interested in, who's going to have what the numbers in for anytime touchdown for Christian McCaffrey and for David Montgomery of Detroit. Because Montgomery's like, so I'm those guys are you see like -300 lines before this week.
Right.
For McCaffrey. It might be like, Dallas has got a great defense, so that's why I'm thinking that could be a debate. Like Carolina's defense on the road is pretty bad. So I could see it'd be interesting if Montgomery is in that McCaffrey-esque -300 type price for anytime TD.
Right. Absolutely. And obviously a few games we can't talk about yet, waiting on Jets and Denver, Kansas City and the Vikings. But so those are the games we can give you value on right now. 3 plays that we think are worth acting on now that we noted. Houston, if you can get that 3, it's realistically at 3 right now. If you can get that against the Falcons, that's great. Detroit minus the 7.5 versus Carolina. Arizona plus the 7 versus Cincinnati. If you can get that, that would be a good value play. So again, these are our act now plays that we think this is the best time to act on them and get value.
Yeah, move fast if you can get, -7. God bless them. I hope they do.
Yeah. All right. So that's all we have for tonight. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., we will be heading back to, again, more act nows after we watch Monday Night Football play out and Sunday. And then we'll also go into the week. We'll start breaking down things that make sense at the time, things that can just help you be more educated, better come the weekend slate and give you the best value and insight that we can. So with that said, we are out of here in under 20 minutes, and we will see you again tomorrow, Monday, 1 o'clock. So thank you guys, and we will see you soon.